This is Goku-san DBZ, and today I'm doing a special top 12. There'll be no honorable mentions, because there's only 12 to list. Now, this is going to be the top 12 MCU movies. So in other words, the top 12 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. And since there's only 12, it's going to be based... This will not be overall opinion, this will be strictly my own personal opinion. I will be listing in order my personal favorite of the MCU movies. That way, to know how I feel in what rank, which ones obviously I like the most. And I'll try to give some reasons for each of them. Okay. And next week I'm going to be doing a two-parter next week and then the week after. Which will be the top, not 12, but top 20. Top 20 faces in wrestling, and then the week after, the top 20 heels in wrestling. And this will also be my own personal opinion on these two lists, as well as it will not be strictly WWE/WWF. It will also include other organizations. So stay tuned for those. Anyways, here it is. Coming in at number 12, Iron Man 2. And for the main reason why Iron Man 2 gets the bottom spot of the MCU movies is because, one, let's face it, is the worst movie of the 12 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. One also is that the entire movie basically, sadly, music-wise, only has AC/DC music. That's another flaw. I like AC/DC somewhat, but seriously, all the music pretty much in the entire movie is AC/DC. I'm sorry, but with comic book movies, I tend to expect at least some decent classical type compositions, pieces of music, combined with modern day music. You know, for instance, other Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. But also, it wasn't a really great storyline, and I felt like, the one who played the main villain in the movie, I think it's Whiplash or something, Mickey Rourke, of course, kind of felt like he phoned it in, playing in the movie. He just didn't feel like he was there, frankly. And that's one of the major flaws I feel with that movie, was that Mickey Rourke just wasn't in it. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. for the most part did a good job as usual, but I didn't like some of the stuff they did in it with Robert Downey Jr. I mean, yes, we got introduced to, obviously, Black Widow in it, and got to see more of course, Samuel L. Jackson in the movie. But yeah, there's just too many flaws, which is why it comes in number 12. Coming in at number 11, The Incredible Hulk. And the reason for why Hulk, gets very low, because it's one I didn't really like. But to be fair, The Incredible Hulk was certainly a lot better than the Hulk was. But also the Hulk wasn't part of the MCU, keep in mind. The Incredible Hulk technically is considered part of the MCU. Now, the main thing I think I liked more about Incredible Hulk, is pretty much the Edward Norton. I thought he did pretty good. Bruce Banner Hulk, I thought overall was pretty good. I mean, I like more Mark, which does the newer Bruce Banner now in the Cinematic Universe. But I like the one before. Incredible Hulk, there really isn't too much to say about. I think, though, Hulk and Incredible Hulk really proved that you can't really have a good standalone Hulk movie. He's just more of an element strictly for really a team as a whole. It's fine for, like, cartoons and stuff, and for that old cheesy TV show of the 70s, but let's be honest, it's just not good enough for a overall movie, like almost 2-hour movie. Yeah, you just can't do it. Sorry, but that's how I feel. I don't want any more standalone Hulk movies. But that's just me. Coming in at number 10, Captain America, the First Avenger. And, yeah, there's a lot of people, I'll be fair, I don't really care much for Captain America, the First Avenger, but the reason why it gets higher than the other two, for the main reason is that, how should I put this? Chris Evans, as Captain America, does a really good job in the role. And he also did a very good, overall, I thought, in it. I also liked seeing other actors that were in the movie, and personally, of course, I loved who played the Red Skull. And I've always been sort of a fan of the Red Skull character. I felt he was one of the more underrated characters in the overall in the comics and stuff. I mean, he's important to an extent in certain things, but overall he is overlooked for the most part, even though he's considered the greatest nemesis of Captain America. And I liked who they casted as, of course, him. And let's be fair, he's been major villain in, or major roles in a lot of movies. He played in Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. He played Agent Smith in the Matrix movies. And so on. I mean, he's done a lot of the huge major movie roles in the last decade and a half, which is kind of insane. But also, overall, I thought it was pretty good for the most part on Captain America, the First Avenger. And it helps fill in some of the gaps, but it's kind of more like a prologue to really the Avengers movie, to be fair. Coming in at number 9, Thor: The Dark World. Now, originally, Thor: Dark World was higher up, but that's after only seeing like the original Thor once. But the more you watch the original Thor, the more it seems to get better. Thor: The Dark World, though, to be fair, is not a bad film. It's actually a pretty good film. But one of the characters that play a friend and ally of Thor in The Dark World, I thought was kind of annoying because, like, about halfway through the movie, they changed actors for that character's role. Most people probably never even paid attention to it. But, yeah, if I watch it more than once, I tend to start noticing these little issues and stuff like that I start paying attention to. Because I try to look at things, at first as more of a moviegoer, and then as I rewatch it, I try to look at through the perspective more of a critic, like my hero, of course, Ebert, which is probably my favorite movie critic of all time. But, yeah, I'm trying to look for a more, I guess you'd say, critic type approach each time I rewatch and look for like certain flaws here and there on different things. And that's one of the major flaws I noticed in the movie. And sadly, they didn't give enough really backstory or anything to the main villain, which was, of course, a dark elf. Sadly, I don't remember the name of the bad guy, even though I've seen the movie 3 times. I still don't remember his name. But I feel that, and one thing I will say about that movie, probably one of the upsides to it, is the special effects are really good and really good, well done, top notch. And I like the whole, like, dimensional rift thing going on in it, which was another thing I liked about it. But yeah, the villain really wasn't that memorable. There wasn't a huge amount of voice acting on his part, and there really wasn't too much. Yeah, you get very little basic backstory to him, but you don't get to know enough about him as a villain for a whole. Which is probably why he's ranked among the worst among the cinematic universe of villains. Coming in at number 8, Iron Man 3. Which, by the way, is probably my least favorite, obviously, Phase 2. But I still very much like Iron Man 3, obviously, given it came in 8th place above, like, 4 other movies. Higher up than probably some people would have it, but that's because I actually really enjoyed Iron Man 3. Yeah, it's, of course, had its flaws, like what they did with the Mandarin was probably the biggest pet peeve I have with that movie. Because I loved who they had that was pretending to be the Mandarin stuff until, like, the second half of the movie, you find out he's not the real Mandarin. Instead, you have this guy with, like, fire regenerating limbs and be able to spit fire out of his mouth and stuff. That's kind of pathetic. It felt like they were just making stuff up as they go along with the movie overall. That's one of the major problems I had with it. Now, on the bright sides of that movie, for the most part, the music wasn't bad. Better than Iron Man 2. And even though there was a lot of flaws in the story arc, it's still better than Iron Man 2. Didn't feel as much like people were like phoning it in on their acting. Also, to be fair with that movie, a lot of people were mad because there was only like about 4 or 5 minutes, whatever, of actual Iron Man in the movie, but I didn't mind it because Robert Downey Jr. is what makes the role great, frankly, to me. And I'm always more of a fan of the actual character, Tony Stark. That's the thing. I love the character Tony Stark, and Robert Downey Jr. does incredible because basically he gets to play himself, which is how he made the role basically his own, and was the bright side to the movie. That's just how I feel on Iron Man 3. Now, coming in at number 7. Avengers Age of Ultron. Yep, it makes it reasonably high up the middle of the list, because Avengers Age of Ultron was really good. And unlike how some other movie critics and stuff on YouTube are bashing Ultron, I personally was a huge fan of Ultron. I thought he was one of the best villains the MCU has had, frankly. He's just basically like I guess you could say like a dark side or an evil version of Tony Stark, because he had the same sarcasm and smart-ass personality of Tony Stark. Of course, Tony Stark technically created him, so he gained some of the elements and stuff of Tony Stark because of that. But I very much enjoyed Ultron. It did feel like his backstory was a little rushed, like how they created, instead of course, it being Ant-Man creating him like in the original story arc. Now, but overall, I really loved Ultron. I hated the crappy accents of the ones who played, the twins, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and I felt that basically that I could have done without the those stupid accents and stuff. I could have done without that. That was one of the flaws. I did like getting to see that brief moment of Andy Serkis in the movie. I thought was also awesome. Because anybody that knows me knows I'm a big fan of Andy Serkis. I enjoyed his cameo in it. I also very much love him as Caesar, and of course the Planet of the Apes prequels. And also, of course, I absolutely am obsessed over him as Gollum. But that's just me. But overall, yeah, they had a pretty solid villain overall, unlike some of the other MCU movies. That's one of the bright sides. They actually had a pretty decent antagonist. And of course, you have these elements put in there with leading to, of course, obviously stuff leading into Thor, Ragnarok, and also elements leading into, obviously, Civil War. So again, not used to yawning this much. But overall, yeah, I highly recommend actually check out Avengers Age of Ultron. Since it's out theaters now, of course, when it comes up, you can always get cheaper-wise from Redbox. But, yeah, I highly recommend the movie. One of the more recommended ones I would give, if you haven't seen it. Anyways, oh yeah, and one last thing, and I love the special ending credits scene when you see the gauntlet. And Thanos grabbing it, he says, I guess I'll have to do it to myself. And puts on the gauntlet. That's awesome. Coming in at number 6, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. And yes, Captain America Winter Soldier, for the most part, had a pretty good bad guy. Not a true overall huge bad guy, but Bucky, as he's known, of course, the Winter Soldier. Interesting character, though. I don't know why they actually called the movie The Winter Soldier, because he really showed up 3 major times in the movie, for the most part. So, why they called it Captain America The Winter Soldier, I may never know, but overall it was it had like elements of a spy type movie, and I did enjoy that, and of course you got to find out the Hydra is still around, obviously, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. And, of course, you meet this one character that upload his consciousness and stuff on computers, which I believe down the line that character is probably going to eventually become MODOK. And if you are just a casual movie fan or whatever, watch just the MCU movies, I highly recommend you bother to look in the comics and stuff and check out the character MODOK. And if you love the Marvel vs. Capcom series, I highly recommend you check out Marvel vs. Capcom 3. MODOK is one of the characters in that game. So I highly recommend you check him out. He's an interesting character with a really over-bloated head. Coming in at number 5, Thor. Yep, the original Thor comes in number 5. Top 5 of the top 12. And shouldn't be surprised, Thor was a really good origin story, frankly. And I was surprised at how much in the more times I watch it, which I think I've now seen original Thor 4 times, I think. I've really enjoyed it. Every time I watch it, I like it more. I also find interesting that Rainbow Bridge thing in the movie. Sort of feels like it came from Mario Kart. Just saying. Old video game reference, but for the most part, yeah, good. And of course, we got introduced for the first time to Loki. And I will never quite understand all the fanboys and fangirls who fan out over Loki. Yeah, the guy who plays Loki is a good actor, to be fair. And I loved him, of course, in Thor the Dark World when he did that transformation cameo as Captain America. I enjoyed that. That was funny and stuff, but I don't get all the huge obsession people have. I feel there's some underrated villains in the MCU. I feel like, for instance, I don't know why so many people hate, like I said, on Ultron. I feel Ultron's one of the more positive, overlooked villains. Sadly. People thought he should have less personality and more, be more sinister or evil. Now, Loki, for the most part, yeah, he helped make the movie, though he didn't become as huge as he did, obviously, until the first Avengers. But, yeah, overall, I really, really love this movie. And, frankly, if you've not seen Thor, one question, why have you not seen it? That would be what I'd like to ask. Why you haven't watched it. Because it's a really enjoyable movie, seriously. Coming in at number 4, Ant-Man. Yep, coming in number 4 is the newest MCU movie, Ant-Man. I personally did not think this movie was going to be this high up on the list. I've seen the movie, twice? And in theater, and yeah, it's a really good movie, really solid, and one of the best villains in, because you kind of relate a little more, though it seemed like he turned completely 180, like complete evil, a little too fast, but you had a reasonable amount of backstory, and at least you got to know some of the basics and stuff of the villain. Now, I agree with what somebody said on YouTube, which is that I feel he would have been a much better Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice than the guy they did cast in that role. I think it's going to be a joke and not do justice to the character of Lex. But this guy, I feel, is the sort of was like the Lex Luthor of, yeah, basically the Lex Luthor of Marvel. He was really enjoyable. And I loved him as Yellow Jacket in the suit when they went back and forth between big and small. The special effects were really top-notch, well done. And I really enjoyed that. And sadly, thanks to that movie, I never really listened to music, but after that movie, I started listening to old band, The Cure, thanks to one of the songs that was in that movie. Got that song stuck in my head. But, yeah, overall, solid movie, solid villain. Really good story overall, and even got a pretty good origin story, backstory of the original Ant-Man, played by, I thought, the actor who stole the movie, Michael Douglas, which is a really good actor, to be fair. I mean, he really shined in the movie as the mentor figure. But the guy who played actual Ant-Man and stuff, he was really good. I liked the story you were getting to learn between, like, him and his daughter, is why Michael Douglas's character and the former Ant-Man, why you also felt he could relate because of his, like, estranged relationship with his daughter. And it's, frankly, a really good story and movie. I love the, like, big fight scene at the end with the Thomas the Tank Engine and everything. Things growing between small, big. And also, I love the relationship between, of course, Ant-Man and actual ants in the movie. It's awesome. After that movie, it made me, frankly, not want to actually kill ants. It's kind of funny to think about it, but made ants as actually really interesting sub-characters in the movie. And it was really cool concept and idea. Frankly, I couldn't have seen like a year or two ago this, because, but then again, I never really read the Ant-Man comics, but I do know the basic origins. Like, Ant-Man was actually originally one of the original founders in the comics of course, the of the Avengers, and he also, of course, was the original creator of Ultron, not Tony Stark, like in the MCU. But overall, yeah, if you haven't seen Ant-Man, seriously, you should watch it while it's still in theaters. It's a good movie. Frankly, I could consider it even possibly a good family movie, because the relationships with the father and daughter type thing actually would probably be a good family film, believe it or not. There's a lot of good action and stuff as well in it. And you have that, in the end, like when he shrinks down really small and stuff, kind of leads into like Beyond Atoms and stuff. And I feel maybe that's going to lead somewhat into possibly the realm of Doctor Strange next year. At least, it could. And you had an ending credits scene where Michael Douglas's character introduces to his daughter to like a new version of like Wasp outfit and stuff for his daughter to take her mother's place, which is going to be cool to see a future new Wasp, as well as the other credits scene. Of course, spoiler alert, is of course you have sing down like Winter Soldier, Bucky, standing there with Falcon and Captain America, which we know is going to lead to Civil War. And by the way, the fight scene between Ant-Man and Falcon is hilarious. Really funny action. But it's a good heist-style movie. Coming in at number 3 is the original The Avengers, which is insane. I've watched The Avengers, though not as obsessed as some of the years. I've probably seen The Avengers 4 or 5 times. Good movie overall. Very much enjoy it. And, yeah, it only came in 3rd place because there's 2 better standalone films. But, yeah, I love The Avengers. And, of course, this is what really boosted the popularity, obviously, of Loki. And also he introduced us in the mid-credits scene to, of course, Thanos for the first time. Which was cool, because I'm a huge Thanos fan, so I was very happy when that happened. But I'm going to try to speed up on this, because I'm at 24 minutes right now on the video, so coming in at number 2, the original Iron Man, which is pretty much the first true cinematic universe movie. And yeah, the first Iron Man was great. Had some good rock music in it. Had some AC/DC. Even had some good Iron. Was it Black Sabbath? With, of course, Iron Man, which was suitable. And I love me some Ozzy. So, I'll take that any day. But, good movie overall. The villain, to be fair, was a pretty decent villain overall. Not the best, but still really good, a corporate type villain. And was played the figure of a mentor figure, supposedly, to Tony Stark. So, interesting. And overall, good story. And yeah, I love, up until like a year ago, Iron Man was my number 1 favorite MCU movie, but now it's my number 2. Which reminds me, quickly, here we go. Number 1. Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, and by the way, Iron Man I've probably watched like 6 or 7 times. However, freaking Guardians of the Galaxy. I, last night, rewatched it again. I have now watched Guardians of the Galaxy 13 times in 1 year. That's insane. I haven't watched a movie like that since Star Wars. It's just, all I know how to say is awesome. I loved the cameo with, the like 2 minute or so cameo with Thanos. Loved the full body look in the chair, seeing down of Thanos with his smirk. I also liked a little bit the character Nebula, which of course was played by probably one of the definitely the more successful former companions of the Doctor from Doctor Who, which she played Amy Pond, which of course was around for 2.5 out of the 3 series or seasons of the Matt Smith years. And basically, I liked her for the most part in Doctor Who seasons 5, 6, and the first half of 7. Very much enjoyed. Good. But anyways, on Guardians of the Galaxy, Nebula was an interesting character. Of course, he also had her sister, which joins Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously, which is... darn it. I'm bad with names. Gamora, the assassin. Which, of course, we know the actress who played Gamora also in the Star Trek movie reboot as the girlfriend of Spock. And other characters in the movie, unlike a lot of people which completely bash, of course, and say he was too messy and not enough actual personality and stuff to Ronan, I completely disagree. I feel Ronan is probably one of the best villains in the MCU. That's my own personal opinion, though. Don't get me wrong. It's just my personal opinion, but I feel in the MCU villains, he's in my top 5, probably number 4 favorite villain in the entire MCU. Definitely in my top. I like the character, and I don't mind he's missing and he acts very serious. Because if you bother to check out any of the actual comics of Guardians of the Galaxy, and instead of acting like total hipsters who think you know everything just because you watch a little introduction on YouTube, to it, or possibly just read Wikipedia, which, by the way, Wikipedia isn't a really good source for actual knowledge. Just saying. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, good movie. They did a pretty decent job to, showing the whole backstory with Ronan. Now, the main things I have to say about the movie is I loved Rocket Raccoon. Oh, just Rocket. I loved Rocket. I also very much enjoyed David Bautista as Drax the Destroyer. I thought he did a really good job in the role. He did a really good job acting like a total badass, because let's face it, he was a total badass in wrestling. But for me, one of the stilling moments of the movie was, without a doubt, the dear Van Diesel voiced Groot. And the other best thing I can say about the movie is the soundtrack. An incredible, amazing soundtrack. Probably the best I've seen in any movie. After I saw the movie, I bought the Awesome Mix digital copy for my phone and stuff to listen to. I just love that music. And last but not least, my personal favorite character in the whole movie, and one of my favorite, probably top 2 favorite characters in the entire MCU. And that being, of course, Chris Pratt and his character Star-Lord. I am become obsessed over Star-Lord character. He's just awesome. He pretty much feels like Han Solo. And by the way, if people say Han Solo was a ripoff, maybe he got ideas from Han Solo and Star Wars, but guess what? The actual character Star-Lord existed before Han Solo did. You don't believe me? Check out copyright dates for Marvel Comics on the first issues and stuff introducing Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy. It was around in like 1974, which means it like predates 1 or 2 years Star Wars. So there you go. Star-Lord predates Han Solo. And I'll get ready to cut this vlog up. I hope you enjoyed this. It's probably my longest video I've ever done. It's a half an hour long now, 31 minutes. But as always, this is Goku Sun DBZ. Peace out, and hopefully someday we do have peace. And please subscribe, leave me a comment below, share any of my videos you may enjoy, game reviews, comic book reviews, top 12 lists, and give me ideas for future vlogs. And I'll see you next time here in YouTube land. Peace out. Oh yeah, and also follow me on, of course, twitter.com/GokuSunDBZ. Almost forgot.